Long-term driving for Uber and Lyft will definitely kill you. Now, of course, I'm being a little bit alarmist here. Any sedentary job will kill you. Now, of course, you guys don't know this, but before I started driving for Uber, I was actually involved in the medical field. My parents encouraged me to go into the medical field, and I did. It was something I actively pursued until I essentially became my dad's hospice nurse. After that, it became something that I didn't really want to pursue. But that doesn't mean that I don't keep up with medical news, medical advances, and it also doesn't mean that I forgot everything that I learned. You are in a chair for 8 to 10 hours a day if you do this full time. That greatly increases your risks of developing many diseases, which I'll pull up here so that we can go down this list together. Let's take a look. Now, I did get this image from a UK health website. However, I'm pretty sure that the human body doesn't change that much when you go from the US to the UK. Below you will find our top 10 risks. These risks typically grow the higher your sitting calculator, but more significantly for those sitting above 8 to 10 hours per day. Number 1, surprise, surprise, cardiovascular health is going to suffer. Heart disease, vascular function, circulation, and blood pressure. Now, don't think that because you're young, you're immune to some of these issues. My friend, who was in his mid-30s, did take a flight from the West Coast to the East Coast, where he developed a blood clot. He passed away. Cancer is number 2, diabetes type 2 is number 3, followed by weight gain, metabolic syndrome, mental health, back and neck pain, muscle degeneration, osteoporosis, and mortality. Overall mortality is going to increase the more sedentary you become. Now, it's interesting that they put mental health here as number 6. I would have actually separated that out into a separate issue because there's a lot there that you need to unpack because it relates directly to driving. Now, it's no secret Uber and Lyft have consistently dropped the amount that they pay their drivers per trip. What that leads to are more and more drivers sticking it out on the road for longer periods of the day. 8 to 10 hours can be an average for a full-time driver, but I've seen people that have been on the road longer than that, especially those that rely on ride-hailing services, ride-sharing services, Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, Postmates, Uber Eats. If they rely on this as their sole source of income, they're typically on the road a lot longer because each app only allows you to be online for 12 hours of the day. But that doesn't mean that you can't sign off on one app and then start driving for another one. So the increase in hours leads to chronic fatigue because it's going to interfere with your sleeping schedule. It leads to a lot of situations where the drivers are no longer 100% focused on the road. Now, I do have this older article from MIT Technology Review. I'll pull it up. Let's take a look. Uber and Lyft are behind a sharp rise in U.S. traffic deaths. The rise of ride-sharing services has increased traffic deaths by 2 to 3% in the U.S. since 2011, equivalent to as many as 1,100 mortalities a year, according to a new study from the University of Chicago and Rice University. How it was calculated. Researchers took the statistics from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and compared them with the dates Uber or Lyft launched in a specific city. Then they checked the accident rates in those cities relative to vehicle miles traveled. That rate shot up in San Francisco after Uber launched in 2010, a phenomenon that was replicated in other cities. Now, you could attribute that to people who are fatigued, being out on the road, and a lot more cars. Let's continue taking a look at the article. Deadheading. The increase in congestion is partly because drivers spend 40 to 60% of their time searching for passengers, a practice known as deadheading. On average, drivers in New York City travel 2.8 miles between fares. So you got a lot of guys just driving around, not really doing anything. They're tired. You know, in a major city, in the middle of rush hour traffic, the potential for being involved in an accident skyrockets. Let's go ahead and continue looking at this article here. Before ride sharing, traffic deaths fell to their lowest number just before Uber launched in San Francisco. In 2010, there were 32,885 fatal car accidents nationwide, the lowest number since 1949. This decline halted, then reversed after the introduction of ride-sharing in U.S. cities. However, it may be too soon to tell whether the effect we document is a short-term adjustment or a longer-term pattern, the researchers said. Now, I know I'm not the only one, but there are times when I've called for an Uber or a Lyft and the driver left something to be desired. I don't know if they were fatigued, I don't know if it's just bad driving, but I think we can agree that the barrier to entry is low. Let's take a look at the final blurb here. Piling up problems. The study adds to a growing body of research on ride-sharing companies. Recent studies have found they increase congestion and cut the use of public transport. Cities are starting to respond to harms, perceived or otherwise. New York City Council introduced a cap on ride-sharing in August, for example. Now on the other hand, let's take a look at this quick blurb on safety.com. Does ride-sharing reduce drunk driving incidents? Updated October 4th, 2019. In one study, it was found that 4 boroughs of New York City, excluding Staten Island, have experienced 25 to 35% decrease in alcohol-related car accidents since the inception of Uber, as compared to other locations where the company doesn't operate. You're going to have some conflicting points of data. One side can show one thing, the other side can show another. It's really up to you to decide where you stand on this. As a whole, I do think that it has reduced drunk driving incidents in my city. So you have the physical health consequences of being sedentary all day, combining with the mental stress that comes with the fatigue. It's going to take its toll. Now, I could give you tips and tricks on how to minimize the impact that it'll take on your body, but it really depends upon you, the driver. You have to know what resets your mind and what makes your body feel good. You are the only one in charge of your health. The doctor can tell you to exercise more. A dietitian can tell you to eat better food, although I know that can be pretty hard to do, but it's really up to the changes that you make. Maybe take a quick nap, get moving, take a walk around a park, even for 10 minutes. That'll help loosen everything up and get the blood flowing, especially since Uber drivers tend to be older on average. So I'm not trying to be alarmist, I'm just trying to highlight that you do need to take care of yourself, especially when doing this, or this job will kill you. So I hope I gave you a few things to think about, keep them in mind, don't freak out, but do make positive changes. So today, do well, be well, go out and crush it, yeah? Alright. Talk to you guys later.